I was sitting in a Stanford courtroom, about to lose my son, when my ex-husband's lawyer delivered the speech he had polished until it gleamed. According to him, I was broke, unstable, and incapable of providing a real home. Judge Merritt gave the kind of slow nod that can end a life in a single motion. I kept my hands flat on the table and breathed the way my grandmother Ruth had taught me. Tell the truth slowly. I didn't cry. I only looked at my 7-year-old son sitting in the gallery and wondered if he understood that the room had already been tilted against us. A year earlier, I was still married to Gavin Reed. He ran a chain of rental properties and small commercial buildings through a company nobody outside his inner circle seemed able to explain. I worked in estate planning, earned a decent salary, and knew enough about financial records to recognize when a wealthy man was hiding behind a clean smile. Our son, Owen, lived between us like a small bridge built from stickers, school projects, and custody calendars. He drew rain clouds, buses, and dogs exactly as he saw them, never prettier than reality. Then I found a loan agreement hidden in our home safe, $180,000. Signed by Gavin. Issued to a golf buddy who had never lifted a hammer on any of Gavin's properties. When I confronted him, Gavin simply smiled and told me I didn't understand the business. That was the first time I heard my marriage crack. By winter, I had rented a modest apartment with a narrow hallway and a window overlooking a parking lot. Owen called it our checkerboard view. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he earned a gold star for sleeping there. I pinned each star to the refrigerator and repeated Ruth's favorite instruction whenever life felt unfair. Tell the truth slowly, and make them wait. One afternoon, Gavin's mother, Carla, came by with boots, sweaters, and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. She had once been a family lawyer herself. She looked around my apartment as if she were assessing it for resale, then casually remarked that some women simply weren't built for conflict. I smiled back and noticed the yellow legal pad sticking out of her tote bag. Soon afterward, my sister Lena called and asked, far too casually, whether I could really afford the apartment and a lawyer. We had never been especially close, but the question felt wrong. The following week, Gavin's attorney opened a meeting by asking how much I earned and whether I could prove I provided enough for Owen. I said very little. I didn't need to. They had already chosen the story they intended to tell. What I couldn't ignore was the sentence I overheard outside a conference room. Gavin was speaking to his lawyer. They planned to begin with the financial angle. Then he repeated the exact line that would later be delivered in court. I was broke. I couldn't afford food or clothing for the children, and he shouldn't be expected to trust me with custody. Children. Plural. There was only Owen. It was rehearsed cruelty disguised as fact. 2 weeks before the hearing, Owen climbed into my car after spending the weekend at his father's house. Very calmly, he told me that Gavin kept important papers behind a moving bookshelf. He said he'd crawled back there once while retrieving a toy and had seen a folder labeled with Gavin's company name. I didn't ask many questions. I only asked whether he had taken anything. He shook his head and went back to eating his crackers. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. That evening, I called my boss, who connected me with a forensic accountant. After reviewing what little information I had, she told me Gavin was likely hiding income inside the company while paying himself a much smaller salary on paper. There wasn't enough time to prove everything before the custody hearing. But something was clearly wrong. Then came the morning of court. As the hearing unfolded, Owen suddenly stood up in the gallery. Holding his backpack with both hands, he asked if he could show the judge a letter he had found in his father's safe. The courtroom froze. Judge Merritt allowed him to approach. Inside the backpack was a folded memo. It came from Gavin's lawyer. The document outlined a plan to dissolve the company after the divorce and shield millions of dollars from division. The judge read it once. Then twice. Finally, he looked directly at Gavin. The color drained from Gavin's face. The hearing that had begun with accusations about my poverty ended very differently. Judge Merritt ordered an emergency financial audit. Temporary custody was awarded to me. Gavin received supervised visitation. Weeks later, the accounting report confirmed what my son had unknowingly uncovered. Gavin had hidden more than $2 million. The court revised child support and financial orders. His lawyer withdrew from the case. Lena apologized through a text message. Carla stopped calling. Not long afterward, Ruth's inheritance helped me purchase a small condo in Norwalk. Owen painted his room the same bright yellow as his favorite rain jacket. The gold stars are still hanging on the refrigerator. But now they mean something far greater than survival. They remind us that we told the truth slowly. And in the end, it was enough.